listening to episode 171 of the Tennis Files podcast on how to transform your tennis strokes with special guest Davor Dekaris. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Tennis Files podcast. This is Mehrban back again with a really cool interview with Davor Dekaris. He has a really wonderful background and he's a really cool guy and tennis coach. He is the stroke development and high performance coordinator at Stone Creek Club and Spa. He is also the founder of Tennis House, which has grown into a wonderful community of tennis coaches and players. He very impressively has over 52,000 followers on Instagram and a ton on Facebook as well. And I have come to find his material really good. I mean, he shares a ton of awesome, really, in a lot of cases, quick tips, techniques, drills, and advice, but they are really to the point and they help you a lot. I mean, I've found myself trying out some of the things that he has put on his social media platforms to very good success, and really impressed again by how he's built up such a great community with Tennis House, which is spelled H-A-U-S. And Davor is a certified USPTA Elite Professional. He was previously a tennis instructor in Berlin for 10 years, and he also played on the ITF and Futures Tour. So in addition to being a fantastic coach, he is also a great player as well. He's played in the highest divisions of the German team tennis leagues. He was also awarded the 2017 USPTA Southern Pro of the Year. And yeah, I'm really excited to have him on. You know, I can tell with Davor that he just has a genuine passion for the game of tennis. He just really loves putting out tips to all sorts of, players of all levels. And he has been given a lot of praise by some great people and interviewed a lot of great people too. And I know that I watched actually a live stream of him and Peter Smith, Coach Peter Smith from USC, and Coach Smith was saying a lot of great things about Davor and how Coach Smith actually learned from Davor's content. So, if a great coach like Peter Smith is learning from Davor, then he is definitely doing something well. So yeah, and before we get into the show, I just want to wish you all well and hope that you're doing well and that you're able to play some tennis. I know in my parts of the U.S. and Maryland, it's actually getting quite cold. I think this morning when I woke up to do my daily morning workout, it was 33 degrees. So teetering on the precipice of ice. So that's going to be a little dangerous. Got to watch out for that these days, although it's going to get a little warmer later on. But enough blabbering about the weather, which is the common talk, when you first talk to people just around the water cooler or whatever. All right, I need to stop talking about this, but just random stuff from my brain on this fine evening. But I'm really excited to get into this interview with Davor, and it's all about technique and how to transform your tennis stroke. So we get into some basics and also some maybe what you might consider more advanced concepts regarding the serve, which I always love getting into, the forehand, the backhand, both the one and two hander, and volleys, and even some tips about coaching and some other drills. So I think you're going to really enjoy this one, and have pen and paper if you can, or just I hope you have a good memory. But a lot of really great gold nuggets in here for you to improve your game. And we'll also have all the links that I mentioned on the show, of course, on the show notes page. And you can always check out tennisfiles.com/podcast for all the episodes and the show notes. So, alrighty then, without further ado, here is my interview with Coach Davor Dekaris. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Tennis Files podcast. I'm really honored to have my friend Davor Dekaris on the Tennis Files podcast. And I'm really excited to have him on just because he's a great person and a great, passionate coach for the game of tennis. And he has really helped a lot of players and coaches. I don't know if you've been to Davor's Instagram handle at Tennis House, which we'll link the exact handle for you to check out. But, he's got over 50K subscribers or followers, I think like 52.6 right now. And just doing a lot of great work. And I really love seeing his posts, which he posts a lot, on Instagram and to help everybody improve their game. So, Davor, thanks so much for coming on to the podcast, and it's really great to have you on.
Yeah, thank you so much. Likewise. So, I watched a lot of your podcasts, and I see you online a lot, and I love what you do. The same back to you. Improving other people's games and trying to help. Right. That's why I think that we're driven by the same passion, and I'm as well honored to be here with you.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Davor. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just I've personally learned a lot from your tips. A lot of times you're posting pretty concise, but also very helpful tips on mainly Instagram is what I see. But I know you probably have some other places where you post as well. But just curious, with the guests these days, I'm wondering how the conditions are with obviously the craziness that's going on. So how is tennis currently in your home state of Louisiana?
Yeah, I mean, as we all know, the cases are growing, but other than that, I'm actually this year I've been busier than I've ever been at our club. It's crazy. I teach a lot of junior players, so I'm the
Hmm.
high performance director, and I love doing this. And the kids were home, and so I could spend a lot of times with them. So I guess that's part why I was so busy, and I'm still busy. And yeah, we unfortunately we had a hard time here. We had like hurricanes coming through, like three. One hit us a little bit, and then the other two went more to the east. So it wasn't easy. The year isn't easy, but as I always say, out of everything, I try to take something positive, and try to find ways to make it better. So that's easy to say. Oh, we got hit by the hurricanes. The people are not coming to take lessons. So I try to be proactive, try to get people on the courts, and yeah, try to have this positive mindset.
Yeah, that's all what it's all about. Just persevering no matter what happens. And I'm just curious about the backstory about Tennis House. I mean, like I said,
Mhm.
you've been doing such a great job. So, when did you first decide to actually create Tennis House? And then, obviously you've done a great job. But what was the first time? And then also, what inspired you to do that?
It was 2016 in January, and I remember that. There's my mentor and like one person I would trust with everything almost, and his name is Scott Gutterman. And I went to him and told him, "Look, Scott, where I'm from in Germany, always coaches always think they know everything. Players know they're the best. They think they know everything, and no one really shares things. And we are in 2020 now, but like at that time, I was like, we have to go with the time. Why don't we use Facebook, Instagram? I wasn't that big at that time, so I created a Facebook group just to try it out. I knew a lot of coaches from around the world, so I invited over 150, 200 coaches from all around the world, and some nameful coaches I knew as well, so that helped. And I started to put my own coaching in there because when I was young, I was always looking for advice. We didn't have the internet. We had to go to the library to find things. No, but
That's
it's
that.
all right. I'm not so old, but like what I want to say with that is, I just wish there would be ways to just say, hey, my hard courts crack pretty quick, and what do I do? Who do I contact to come and fix that? Or
Hmm.
my ball machine doesn't work anymore. Why? Those things and the technical things you can do with the kids. Hey, I can't get rid of this waitress position on the serve. Guys, can you help me? And so I put stuff of mine, my coaching in there. The feedback was good, so that's why I kept doing it.
Hmm.
And yeah, and then other coaches started to post, and then it just grew. So it started all on Facebook. So
Mm,
I think I'm at 13,000 coaches. It's mainly like tennis coaches and
right.
physios and people who have to do something with tennis. Not necessarily players. I wanted to have that group like exclusively for coaches and people who have to do something with tennis. So
Mm,
I'm still in it, maybe 10 minutes a day. I'll just check if everything is going well, if no one, curses. You have to always check on those things. But
mhm.
my main focus is Instagram, and that has a couple of reasons. Like Facebook restricts a lot of things now. You just you just ask 10 people to join your group, and then you have to re-log in. They kick you out. Are you
Mm.
spam? I don't know. It's like, it's just getting, I understand why they do it, but it's a little bit too much in my eyes, you know? So on Instagram, when you look at the data, like it's from 18 to 55 and maybe 60, there are a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people that are on Instagram. And Instagram is just at the moment, TikTok is coming, right? It's a little bit different, but it's a little bit fun. But I think now that the videos can be long with Instagram, you can just reach so many people. And all the guys, all the tennis players like
Yeah.
Marin Cilic, Laovic, Goffin, even Nadal was on Instagram, you know, so they're all on Instagram. So, you know, I was like, all right, platform. And as you saw, as you said earlier in our previous conversations, you know, every platform has something good and bad to give, right? And so YouTube is different than Instagram. And I just picked Instagram for the reason that it has a lot of young people and a lot of like, not old, but like, you know, people who have a little bit more life experience there as well on Instagram. And yeah, my main intention was just that, you know, there's so many parts in this world where people can't afford to have tennis lessons, and there's still a good way online that you teach yourself something, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like let's say not just Africa, there are also like many places, you know, that have like, you know, maybe like very, you know, poor people who cannot like access like or have tennis lessons, right? So
Yeah.
that was one for sure, one intention I had, to help others to get better with what they do. And the other thing is to, you know, you always want to test yourself, right? So if you want to get better in something, you want to see. So when I put my coaching out, you know, either you people like it or you will get feedback, right? So I wanted to test myself, yeah, how others like what I do, and so far the feedback was okay, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's amazing. I mean, we were talking and you earlier, obviously, before we started recording, and you mentioned that you're getting, like a couple thousand a week or something like that, which
Yeah.
is amazing. And yeah, we're obviously going to get to a bunch of technique tips, but just
Mhm.
curious, and this can be helpful for even tennis players to figure this out. But um, I checked your Instagram page and you posted, I think, 8 times in the last 24 hours, which is just amazing. And it's all, great quality posts, obviously. So,
Mhm.
what has allowed you, and you obviously, you have a, a full-time job as well, coaching. So, how are you able to stay consistent and keep posting, every single day, multiple times, despite other things that are going on? And you have a family as well. So what's the secret, Devor?
That's a very good question. It's all about organization. So,
Mm,
you know, there's like at the beginning, I was reading a lot of books what to do, and in a couple of them it said, you know, pick the leaders in your industry and look what they do in Instagram. So I was looking at functional tennis, at Joe Myers, at two-minute tennis. I looked at you. I looked at Will. You know, I looked at everybody. So people, if I say too much, they will lock me away. So I spent so many hours in researching, right? But the key is, so Tennis House, you know, we did tennis conferences as well. It's not just like the online platform. You know, I had Emilio Sanchez Arancha, Douglas Cordero, Dominic Team's fitness coach, and Mr. Andy Brandy, Mark Kovacs, just name it. You know, I had them all on the tennis conferences, so people know that, you know, some decent educational information gets through. So all over the world, you know, I speak 7 languages, so
wow.
all the guys send me things, and that helps me as well. You know, I can speak with German guys in German, Italian, English, Spanish. So I communicate. I communicated over the last, and I still do it a lot. I communicated a lot with the people, and they tag me and send me things. So I get daily, like a lot. I think I get around 100 videos every single day from all around the world.
Wow.
So what I do is to try to spend time with my family, obviously, and besides, as I said, I'm full time. So on a Sunday, for example, I look through everything. I take myself like 2 to 3 hours on the weekend, and I just look through everything, and I make a folder where I just say, you know, good stuff, I call it. So I put it all in there, and I try to see other good things too besides all that. So when you type in the hashtag tennis, sometimes you find people you haven't seen yet on the top posts, right? So I just look what they do, and with the time, as I said before, I spent 10,000s of hours of seeing who's out there. I could name you right now 150 people. And it's important to make a list, do whoever is out there and is, wants to do something with on Instagram or any other platform. I have a list on my computer with over 170 great accounts. So I get constantly from them stuff. I ask other people, and everything I repost. Obviously, every single post I reposted, I have permission from the people. That's the most important. When you guys do that, ask for permission. So every one of those posts, I got the permission to repost, and they want it and that's a cool thing, 99% of the people that understand the concept. If you're good, you want it out there, right? So, it's not like they don't, oh, please don't share it, it's mine. So in the tennis industry, it's a little bit different. Everybody wants it out. And, if it's good and under my criteria, what I think people want to see, I make a folder and then I try to stay consistent. And then with the time, that you get so quick, right now, if someone sends me something, it takes me 30 seconds and I've posted it and it's done, so it goes fast.
That's awesome, Davor. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
there's no secrets.
Yeah. So I mean, whether you want, and that just shows how much Davor wants to help everybody. So yeah, I mean, whether you want to be successful at Instagram or other things and follow that, or you can even transpose this to tennis as well, which is basic big concepts of modeling, great players, great coaches, whoever, and then lots of planning, planning what you're going to do throughout the week, like for your practices. I mean, it's the same, a lot of times with life and tennis. So
100%. It's one of the most, the planning is in my eyes, the key. In tennis, you have a student, you assess them or her, you watch them play in a match, and then you go from there and you make a little plan. And the most important is that when you create those plans, that you have obtainable goals, right? So otherwise the people get discouraged if you can't reach them. So that's very important, and it relates to everything in life. Yeah, you're 100% right.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Davor. And yeah, actually, when you talk about obtainable goals, I mean, do you have players sometimes do they come in with certain goals that maybe, I don't know, they don't seem so obtainable, or like, how do you approach goal making in general with your students?
That's another good question. I think we live in a society in times where I believe it's made too easy for the kids to obtain things. Like, parents help so much. And, when I grew up, there was no internet help. There's nothing. I had to do everything, and then sometimes people come to me and say, hey, Davor, my goal is to play Division One. So and then you look at the player playing, you watch the whole match. You have things, I like to look at when I watch someone playing, I like to focus on the mental part and the physical part. It's the first two things I look at, right? So I look how they behave after winning, losing points, what are they grinding and hustling on the court? What is the body language? Physically, what will they look like? I look at the parents, you try to get ideas, and then I look at the tactics. And then the last thing actually I look at is the technical part, because, like there are other things. The technical part you can still work and mold a lot, but the mental you can't. If Nadal wouldn't have the drive to win like he has it, he wouldn't have won 13 Roland Garros. That's just, you have to have certain things to be good. And for me, it's like a big time is the mental part and the physical part. That those two things are for me very crucial, and the rest is all trainable and you can teach them. But I think as a coach, I'm at the point in my career where, and when I was younger, I maybe made mistakes, that you have to be straightforward to parents and kids. If you do not believe, you don't know what's going to be. You don't know if they're going to play Division One or not. You don't know those things, but you have an idea, in which direction it could go, because, I do it since 2 decades, right? And if I really think it's not realistic at all, I just tell them, look, I think, sit down with them, and I'm transparent, and I tell them, look, maybe that's not, so maybe we should aim first to become a really good high school player, right? And then, and then just see and go from there. I don't like to go and put the hopes too high. Right. I'm working with a kid right now. So he wants to play Division One. His name is Brody. Wonderful kid, and I believe he can do it because he lives and breathes tennis. So 24/7, he knows everything about tennis. He watches every video. He's constantly on. And I think that's missing in nowadays. A lot of kids, you know, you have some decent players, and they're like, yeah, who just won French? I don't know. Like they you know, I feel like you have to be interested in all those things. And then he compares his technique every day, looks online a lot, does besides coming to the lessons a lot. So I think that's a big part, you know. How many kids do we teach? They tell you they want to be good, and one of the things that I will never understand is the serve, right? So the serve, 9% of the kids you ask that want to be good, no one comes beside the lessons and takes a bucket and serves. It's unbelievable to me, you know, like I just don't understand it. And then you tell them to do it, they still don't do it. So, yeah, as I said, you know, I think kids are spoiled nowadays a lot. And especially if you live in an area that's a little bit maybe wealthier, you know, and look, I don't judge anyone, you know, I spoil my kid too, but I just grew up differently. You know, I grew up in Berlin in Germany, and I grew up in a high riser and with multicultural. You know, we never had any issues. We had people, Turkish people, Polish people, Croatian, English, Indian. We all lived together. There was nothing ever, no fights, and we all worked hard for what we wanted to do. You know, and I think just times changed a little bit. You know, maybe we baby the players a little bit too much, and you know, it's a hard balance to find, but I try to be straightforward. To get back to your question, that's the most important. If you're transparent and at the beginning to the last thing, you know, and you from the beginning you tell them, hey, this is what we're going to do, I believe this, what do you guys think, and you're open with them, then you're not going to run so much into trouble with parents.
Yeah, that's really appreciated, Davor. I mean, you have to be transparent, and you can't just give them false hope and things like that. And
Yeah.
it's same with our individual selves. Like we have to look honestly at ourselves and say, okay, maybe I am lazy, I am this, I'm that, like, and then just work on those things instead of just like ignoring them and say, oh yeah, you're fine, you're fine. So that's really good. There are a lot of great points that you made. And
then one more
Mhm.
thing,
Yeah.
one more thing with the money, right? Jobs, like, you know, I understand, you know, it is. We live in tough times, you know, and sometimes, you know, you have people who are not going to say because they don't want to get fired, or they don't want to get, you know, they don't want to lose their job or lose clients, you know, and that has to be understood by people too. I mean, you know, we live in hard times, but I think I'm fortunate to be in the position where, you know, I can say that, right? So it might be easier for some people than for others, and I don't judge anyone. I just think it's, you know, good to be transparent.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a great point. It's a lot of variables for sure. But you made a really good segue when you talked about how you can understand, players are not practicing their serves enough because that's the most important shot in the game. Because that's what I wanted to touch upon firstly with technique and just kind of a general question, Devore. But when you're working with your students, and I've seen some really good videos about that you posted, but what are maybe a couple of the biggest flaws that you routinely end up seeing with your students with respect to the serve?
Like with kids especially, I mean the toss, right?
Mm,
So I always have the analogy like with soccer. If you have a free kick, right, and you shoot the same free kick from the same spot 4 times, you want to hit the left corner every time. So the first time you go too high, you know, the next time you have to shift your body weight a little bit more forward, right? Or not give so much effect maybe then, you know, so you always kind of work towards where you want it. So the problem is in tennis, if your toss is always different, goes to the left, to the right, you can never tweak what you need to tweak for the serve
mhm.
to go in. You know, one big thing is the toss, obviously. And you know, with very little kids, I understand that the strength. You know, you try to toss the ball, like I always say, toss the ball out of the shoulder, out of the shoulder here. Right? That's the road. This is the engine. I always tell the players to keep the arm straight and just place the arm up. But little kids don't have so much strength as well, right? So they try to use they compensate
Right.
with other parts of the body. So with the little one, I don't worry so much. But when they're like 9, 10, they get a little bit stronger. That toss has to be. I focus a lot on the right toss technique, and what helps a little bit, since you were talking about what we can do there with the kids. I'll tell them always to start a little bit higher, so they can have a longer way of acceleration. Basically, when they drop the arm a little bit lower down, and then they go back up. So that helps a little bit, like the kids to not use and overcompensate with other parts. And then obviously, one of the things I'm going to speak Friday at the online conference, and I have my topic is flaws in the junior game, and talking about different shots. So one thing is obviously the weight position. So the kids just drop too early and have the racket in this position. And that's what I love the online things. The famous party hat from Ryan, where he holds the racket up and then they kick the head down, and then I had a couple of things where you just drop the racket and an index finger and then the thumb. That's a cool thing. And what I like what Rick Macy is doing when the player is in the trophy position and toss the ball up, he holds his racket against the racket of the player that he has to hold it up. And then when the player tosses the ball up, it's at the peak and they bend their knees, then he pulls the racket away, right? So they have it at the right spot. So there are a lot of things, you can work on. But I think definitely big part, obviously, is the toss. And I'm a little bit different maybe than other coaches. I like to teach the slice serve first. So I do it the reverse way, because what is a lot of times the kids toss the ball too far to the left, right? And what happens then? They collapse and make themselves small. So, but you need this thoracic extension, right? So that's one of the most important things in the serve. Mark Kovic speaks a lot about that.
Yeah.
So they need to go up, right? So what I like is toss the ball to 1 o'clock, and for the kids, and I just tell them to get the right arm up and get the chest out and go up and just cut the ball. Then I just let them play with that, And then if they have a good slice serve, then usually I gradually, teach them the kick, or the topspin kick serve, and I go from there. But I like to have first the slice serve down and the flat serve, and then I gradually get them when they're maybe a little bit, I don't know, it depends how every player is different, but I go that route with the kids. I always teach the slice serve first.
I think that's brilliant, Davor, and I wish that you were coaching me when I was younger, because I remember in the juniors, I was just a chronic, tossing it to the left all the time, and I was getting even shoulder pain. I was hitting the ball just very uncomfortable positions with my shoulder capsule. Yeah, it was
lower
rough.
Back too,
Yeah.
And there was Coach Peter Smith, since when we talked before, right? When you said I was like, hey, Mehrban, if you want me in there in the interview, I'm fine, but I don't know if you're sure. I said, yeah. Coach Peter Smith said what you do is not bad. So Coach Peter Smith, that was funny. So I had one drill I really liked. It's when kids toss the ball too far to the left, those rebounds walls are awesome. Whoever can afford a rebound wall, they're maybe $100. You put it to the left side of the player, just right. So right to the left. And then you stand on the right side of it. So when you toss it to the far to the left, you can't serve. So that you have a barrier there, So I think that has really helped a lot of my kids, that toss the ball too far to the left. They can't do anything because you have a kind of a wall right next to you. So you can do many things with those rebound walls. It's a great tool.
Wow, thanks for mentioning that. I actually just typed that down in my notes to hopefully find one. So that wall, it's just like a freestanding wall that you just put to the left of you, or wherever you are?
It's like you use it. I think they use it in baseball, and you can tilt it, and you can stand it up right straight, or you can tilt it to 45 degree, whatever you want. You can even volley with it. It's pretty cool. And then I can send you later, definitely, if you want to. I send you a link. They're really good. Yeah, you can use it, however, or on the kick serve. Put it right in front of the player, so they have basically the wall in front of them, so they have to kick serve it over it, right? Or for many things you can use it. You can use it for reflex volleys. You can you have the wall in front of you, the coach is behind you, he feeds against it, and then you have to reflex volleys. I try to create a million of exercises with it. I think it's I like that.
Awesome, very cool. And yeah, a lot of great tips on the waiter's pose. I think you posted a video, like, was it yesterday or very recently, where you
Yesterday, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
hit
and
like
you
25,000 already. That was a, yeah, and as I said, it's not all. Ryan and Brian Dobble had a great idea, where he has the ball on the racket,
right.
and then when you go back, it just rolls down. There are great minds out there. You just have to be open-minded.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Um, and so I guess generally, like, well, okay, let's go with the kick serve. I was curious. I know a lot of people, they kind of struggle with it, and they don't get enough spin that they want to get on it. So, do you have any tips on being able to produce more spin, or conversely, like any mistakes that people are making that prevent them from making enough spin on their kick serve?
There's a lot to do. I'm a firm believer. The leg drive is obviously so important. So,
Yeah.
I try to, when I work with my kids, when they're in the trophy position, they have this little hesitation, which is not a stop, right? When they're up. And then when the legs shoot up, then the racket falls into the leg position in the back, right? And when the legs shoot up, all the action happens, and that is initiating everything. I explain it always to my players. It's like a rocket that goes up. When it goes up, then make sure you have good arm acceleration. And I work a lot. A lot of my players have strong, good legs, explosive legs. So that's one part. It makes it easier then. And then I just think it's a lot of repetition, doing the right things. You have so many exercises you can work on, and then especially when you work with little kids, what I like to do is for the triceps, for example, as a coach, hold the band back there, and they go up, right? They go up,
Mm,
make them, they can shoot up as well and go slowly down, shoot up and go slowly
mm,
down. You have certain exercises you can do with the players, but what I like to do on court is, roll the ball with the racket, put
mm,
it in the palm of the hand up, and then roll it, go behind the fence, kick, try to serve, but one thing, an extreme kick serve where they're really arching a lot, and where the kids, like, pronate so much. I don't like that so much for the younger kids, because in my eyes, if you really have like a good topspin, regular topspin serve, right,
mm.
or you kick it extremely and pronate more, and it just feels like it's much more force on the whole body. So I actually, when you look at Novak's serve, I like to just teach the kids until they're 15, 16, just to brush around and not focus so much on the extreme pronation and on the extreme brushing on the ball, because I believe, the bone gets out of the socket every time. I think you
Yeah.
serve like an inch or something every time when you serve. It's
Mm.
wearing and tearing, right? So, yeah. So I just think it's a lot of repetition, and I just don't like the extreme form of kick serving in young junior years. For my taste, it's a lot of things that can go wrong with the shoulder.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that, Devor. Better, wait till you're a little more developed to do those
Yeah.
extreme types of things. So one thing that you mentioned earlier, Devor, is that the consistency. Like, same thing when you're taking the free kick, when you're tossing the
Hmm.
ball, it can be all over the place. But if when we're hitting like slice serves, kick serves, and flat serves, which obviously you still usually want to put spin on, do you still want players to like vary their tosses and then just within those different serves be consistent, or would you rather them have the same exact toss every single time, like Serena, no matter what serve you're hitting?
So my point of view of that is, if you want if you want to be like a professional player, and
Mhm.
you're training to be the best of the best, you try to be as close as you can to have kind of the same toss.
Mm.
But to be honest, the difference, even if you're really good and someone can read what you're serving, there are a few players that can really like hide what they serve.
Yeah.
And if Query is serving kick or slice, I can still you can still feel it and see it. Like, for me, I don't know. It's a little bit, maybe I'm too. It's kind of old school in my eyes. I don't know, because like if I believe firmly, like if Isner serves and he hits a slice serve, they can see if it's a slice serve. Doesn't matter. Like if you're a good server, then if you toss it maybe to 11 o'clock on the kick serve, and you toss it to 12 o'clock on the flat serve. I mean, you really have to have a extreme good opponent to read that. I believe, I still believe 90% of the people couldn't even read what you're doing. So,
right.
For me, that's maybe a little bit overrated, maybe. But if you want to be the top of the top, obviously, you want to get to as close as you can to have a consistent toss, like for the kick flat and for the slice, at least within a radius of a certain degree there. I believe, you should, but that's only a few people that get there, I believe. Like if you have a 3-0 player or a 3-5, if you go to club tennis again,
Right.
it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Like they should actually, the club player should actually toss more to the right if they want to slice it. Or they should toss it actually a little bit more to the middle if they want to have it flat, and if they want to put some spin on it, they should toss it to the left, because they have too many limitations most of the times, and the physical limitations to do what they should do anyway.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that, Davor. Appreciate that. And just maybe a tip on the slice serve, like what part of the ball should they be hitting to really get that, that good slice? Because sometimes I think there's a misconception about like where exactly you want to hit it.
So what I teach my players, what I like to do is, that when you have kids that start to play and they don't have the right grip, for example, right? And let's say you put them in the continental grip and they start to serve, that every ball goes too far to the left, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they bother the players on the next court, and you have to switch topics because too many balls go over there. What I like to do is I like to put the players out of the doubles alleys, like right on the right side of the court, and I just tell them, even if it's not 100% maybe correct, I just tell them toss the ball to 1 o'clock and hit the right top of the ball and go to the left bottom. And that's all I need to say to most of the players. I don't like it on the serve, especially when you have kids out there and you talk about pronation. It just confuses kids. You pronate anyway. If you throw a ball, you pronate, right? You don't have to think about, I'm throwing and then I pronate. Too many coaches put, for my taste, too much emphasis on that. I believe we have great serves. They can serve 130-mile wide serves with slice that no one touches. And I never said, hey, when you serve, you pronate. I think the emphasis sometimes is too much on this pronation thing. I just tell them, go out there, toss the ball to 1 o'clock. It has to be kind of diagonal in front of you. You want to cut contact in front of you and hit the right top, go to the left bottom. And then I draw them the ball on the clay court in front of them. So you draw, just if you have on clay court, you just draw a ball on the ground, and then you mark the 12 and the 6, and then you mark where you want them to hit the ball, and they can always look at it before they start to serve. So it's a good visual, I think, and that works usually.
Yeah, that's great stuff there, Davor. Appreciate that. And I guess we'll go to the forehand, and I'm curious about your grip recommendations. Just to start from the beginning on what types of grips you like your players to have.
So I like to teach little kids when they come to me, when they're 4, 5, 6, 7. Basically, all the beginners are continental. I'm a firm believer. Couple of the first times they come over, especially kids. Adults, they get it a little bit more. You can, you have aids with the grip aid, where you put that in there from, I don't know if you can say it. On-court, off-court does those, and I love those because they help me so much. They help me unbelievably much, and you can do many things. But for kids, for sure, at the beginning, I let them develop. I mean, we slice, we serve, we volley, we overhead, we drop shot with the continental grip, and they're so little. You can gradually move them over when they get a little bit older. And once they get the feel for the continental, it's like magic. They have amazing shots. And especially for kids, even one-handed shots, continental grip, their two-handed backhand is going to be so much better because his non-dominant hand on the two-hander is so crucial. A lot of kids grip around and they have actually a semi-Western like backhand grip on the bottom, and they don't have the right grip. So that the continental grip is crucial, right? It helps the backhand, obviously, and later on you just move it gradually. I like to teach on the forehand, since we're with the forehand. I like to teach a strong Eastern grip and then maybe super, super weak semi-Western. That's just a personal taste for me. But if I see if a player has a lot of rotational forces and they have great legs and they're kind of shorter maybe and they like to hit balls a little bit higher, they can go to semi-Western, or even like if in some cases I even allow them to have a Western. But I'm a firm believer. Majority of kids you get out there, I teach them with the very strong Eastern, super weak semi-Western, because there's just more things you can do with the shot.
Nice. Can you expand a little bit upon that? By you just mentioned that there's more things you can do with that strong Eastern or weak semi-Western.
Yeah. Yeah, especially as we all know, on the low balls, right? And the game is more evolving again to coming to the net. How many kids do I see in tournaments that have like a super strong semi-Western or Western grip, and they get a low slice ball on the forehand side and they frame it? You see that so often, right? Or and then they come in and they don't have any linear force forward, because all they can do is like brush the ball basically, right? So they come into the net and can't put anything behind the ball. And then when you look at players who have like a strong Eastern or weak semi-Western, they can put some power behind the ball. You can place it, maybe get some more power on there, so it's harder to hit something back when they come to the net. And you can maneuver the wrist just easier when the ball is with that grip on, when the ball is like lower. Obviously, you can roll the ball way better with the strong Eastern when the ball is low, and that's one of the main reasons why. And then a lot of kids understand that when the kids are like 10, 11, they're like still smaller and they get a lot of balls. When they don't move well, they get it above shoulder level, and it's easier to hit semi-Western and Western there. But it's up to the coach as well to teach the kids as early as you can, either to move earlier back and let the ball drop, or to learn to hit on the rise, right? And that's another thing I believe firmly. If you teach the kids to hit on the rise in early years, in early ages of the development, they will understand that so quick. It's a lot of coaches think it's a lot of work to, you just have to put it, I don't know how many hours in there, but when they get the concept, it's like magic. And I have to tell you one funny thing. So there was one girl like 6 years ago. We played in Mississippi, and it was really cold. It was maybe 39, and it was like getting like 7 p.m. the last match, and it was close to a big pond and or lake or something, and it was so cold. And then they started to moonball for 4 hours. They played till 10:45. And I thought my hands were like pink and purple and blue. And every time the ball was short, they hit it back, moonball, and ran back to the baseline. And I remember that I told the mom, look, I can never, ever watch that again. I said, I'm honest, right? So I said, look, I teach her how to hit on the rise, and I teach her how to approach to the net, because I just had her like a month or two, and I said, this is the next thing. I don't care if it's a year, half a year, 2 years, until she gets that, because I ain't going to watch that again. So that was my experience with the Western grip and like moonballing and not coming in properly to the net.
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, a lot of truths, from my experience, because I have kind of a semi-Western, like, a little bit towards the Western actually. And I actually at one point had to move it back a little bit because I was having a lot of trouble actually with low balls. And just not, you'd be hitting a ton of spin on it, just having to brush up a lot. And then, yeah, it's, I can definitely agree with that approach there on the forehand. What is the main generator? I mean, I have my opinions obviously, but I want to hear from you. What's the main generator in your opinion of power on the forehand?
Same again. It's having a lively arm, a loose arm, and the leg drive. So
Yeah.
if you explode from the legs in the right moment, so the loading, it plays obviously a big part. The players, this is one issue I see a lot in junior trainers, is they cannot coordinate the lower and the upper body. So a lot of kids just hit out of the upper body, and they forget. I always explain it with the basketball that it throws a free throw, right? No one stands with straight knees there and just throws the ball, and then they understand. They're like, yeah, right. If they're like basketball, they're like, yeah, they bend the knees and then they go up. Or same with the dunk. If you want to dunk, you can't dunk with straight legs. So you have to time right. You lower your body and go up. So I try to explain to them that the loading is so important. And I found this is one of the biggest challenges I have as a coach on the forehand side is if the kids really do not get to load the legs properly, if they just don't understand the concept, it is not easy to teach them that. I found, you can drop the ball and say bounce, hit. You can put them on a table that has their height kind of, and they kind of sit there and you toss them a ball, and when they go up, when they stand up, they hit it. There are certain ways to teach them that, right? But I found that really challenging. So that's one of the things I believe is very challenging as a coach. But the leg drive, you explode from the legs. Make sure the arms are on the right side, ideally on the outside. You explode from the legs. The racket falls automatically in the leg position, and then have a lively arm. I always tell the players, let the racket head work, right? So I always tell them, think that there are 2-3 pounds weight on the top of the racket, on the tip, and when you swing forward, that is pulling your arm forward and out, and then once they start to understand the concept of being loose and let the racket actually work for them instead of muscling the ball, you have great achievements, and then things can happen, as like when they hit their forehand, they can still follow through, but then hit out of the forearm, right? So they follow a little bit and then they slap the ball. There are so many things that can happen there, and it's not easy to teach it. You always have to be on top of them to make sure that they do a good job with that.
Yeah, 100%. And one of the videos that I really liked, among many, is you had this and you just talked about it, kind of like muscling the ball versus coiling properly. So you had this warm up that players could do. So can you talk a little bit about that warm up that people could do before their matches?
Yeah, I love doing that. I just did the player just stands up straight in the athletic position, and then I like to hold the right hand holds the butt cap on the right side, pushes against, and left hand is on the top of the racket. They hold the arms out, and then they just rotate the shoulders and the upper body. Obviously, when you rotate the shoulders against the lower body, and then you can do it as well with already changing the grips if they're more advanced. They change the grip to forehand grip and load, and then they go to the backhand grip, and then just the flexibility in the spine and the pre-stretch. It's so important that we always say as coaches, you can see the other side, the back of the player too, and if they do a good job, then you feel a little stretch, and use those muscles to do a good job there, because it's not about muscling the ball. And that's a big challenge with adults when we always talk about kids. Adults, men especially, they're like big men, they're like squeezing the racket too tight, and it takes a long time to teach a recreational player that is big and strong to start to be nicer to his equipment and not over squeeze the racket and just go and let the racket work for them. I always say, let the racket work for you. So yeah.
Good stuff, Davor. So, this is they debate this a lot, and I'm curious about your take on it. So, they talk about ATP versus WTA forehand. I mean, what's your overall, feelings about the take back on the forehand, and what people should really be doing?
So I believe, obviously, most men, we're just built a little bit differently. And for the man, it's easier to pull from the outside more. There's some, I always compare, like when they have the ladies and they have a more like a bigger take back. In my eyes, it's not a problem until it gets so bad that you can see the racket from the other side. So if I have a female player and they go around and I do not see that racket, they still have a big backswing, I don't need to touch it unless it affects her on hard court when she plays tournaments. Obviously you have less time, right? On clay court, it's more forgiving. So you can have maybe a bigger take back, but if the take back is so big that you're not able to contact the ball where it should be contacted on a fast surface, then I guess you should start to maybe change something. But I truly believe, and if you're on the outside on the right hand side, if you're righty and you keep everything more compact, you just play more effortlessly, and I feel like you have more control, and you can actually accelerate the ball better if you keep everything compact and on the side. And if the take back is too big, I would just assess the player and see if it actually affects that player. Some players can play with it. Some players have big backswing, and like we said, it's the beauty of tennis. Ernest Gulbis looks like the swan on the forehand there, but
Yeah.
I mean, he was top 20, right? So that's the beauty of tennis. The most important is that the main action of the stroke is correct, right? So, and that's if you take the preparation away and if you take the follow through away, if that part is correct and the player can handle it, then let him be. That's my approach.
Yeah, I love it. I totally agree with that. And I had our friend, mutual friend Joel Myers, on the previous
Yeah,
episode of the podcast, and he was saying similar things like, as long as you have a solid contact point, you're contacting the ball at the right place, right timing, then it's okay if you have like a longer swing and whatnot. So
yeah.
yeah, good stuff there, Devor. Appreciate it. So now, and some of these again may seem like basic questions for the stroke, but for the backhand, I'm curious for the one hander and then the two hander. What types of grips do you usually like your students to use?
Like for the two hander on the bottom continental and on the top eastern,
Mm-hmm.
and for the one hander, what is it, eastern backhand grip,
Mm-hmm.
and that's kind of the grips that I teach. And I found it more tricky on the two-hander, as I said earlier. Like the most dangerous things is with the kids that the right hand goes too much over and goes into the semi-western backhand grip, and then you're in trouble because then you isolate the wrist is just locked and you can't do anything on low balls. It's kind of the same thing like on the forehand side, then so you just limit the player a little bit when they have it. It looks more like a baseball swing actually when they do that. It's weird, but no, and then the one-hander with the eastern grip, it's the backhand eastern grip. It's just natural. I'm a one-hander. It just comes natural to me when you hold it like that. And what I really, really, what's a big help is those grip pins. As I said, they're like magic. There are other products that are great too. Like Tennis Builder. Their stuff is great too. I just don't want to. Everybody who invented something that helps with the grip, they did a phenomenal job. So I just use those a lot because they saved me so many hours of talking and correcting, because you can't cheat. There's a pin there and you can't turn it around. And then with little kids working with the bevels, it's again, you have a 7-year-old. He's like, what bevel? What? And then you're like, no, just forget about it. Just and then with little kids, I like to do for the continental, for a two-hander, I like them to have a racket here. Yeah, I'll show you. Hold on, give me 1 second.
Sure.
With the little kids, what I like to do is that they put the racket under the armpit like this.
Uh-huh.
And when they have it under the armpit, if you try it out later and they come around like this, and I tell them it's like a sword they take out, then they have a really good, pretty close to like the continental grip. So all the kids, I let them do that every time before they serve.
Mhm.
Racket under the armpit, check the grip. Stay super loose, because if you have the right grip, they serve too far to the left on the serve, right? If they have the right grip on a two-hander as well, they're gonna hit the balls over the fence at the beginning because they're not used to it, right? So it's all question about repetition and doing it correct.
Awesome. Yeah, no, for sure. And sorry to ask you again, the grip tool, what was it called? Grip holders, was it?
Grip. It's called. I think it's called Grip 8, and
Grip
it's
8.
it has a Velcro. It's like you can it has Velcro, and then it has a little soft pin on the side, and then you put it between your hands, and you adjust the grip how you want it, and then you just grip it around so it sticks out where you put it. So you as a coach put it on, and it's unbelievable. When I posted, everybody wanted to get, and they all love it. That's one of the things I think very, very helpful. And not because I work like on court, off court, as always we collaborate always, but I truly believe that it helped me unbelievable. So I would always put my hands on fire for the grip pin, 100%.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah, no, it's always appreciated when, you educated people about like really good products and tools. So that's very good. I'm going to check
Yeah,
some
that's
of that.
definitely a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, sweet, sweet. And then it seems like, and actually, I've had this issue too. Like, it seems like we just don't get that same, wrist lag and everything on, especially like the two hander. Like, we just don't get that. The racket drop isn't as good as on the forehand. So I was wondering if, you have some magical cures or something, some fixes for us as to help those particular issues on the backhand.
To get on the backhand side, to get the racket more into the leg position and pull from there. I work a lot with like tactile, like holding the racket and adjusting it for the player, and that's the only thing I can just say for that, because I always tell them on the backhand side when they turn and have the racket up to actually loosening the wrist up. Like, if the players are tight,
Yeah,
like especially men,
it's a big one.
you cannot drop the racket head in the right position. So that's one of the biggest issues when I feel. So I try to hold their racket. I tell them to keep the hands on the racket. I grip the throat, and I stand next to them. And with my left arm, I just adjust everything. I tell them, look, leave everything to me. Just hold the racket so tight that you don't drop it. So hold it so loose that you don't drop it. And then I just tell them to close their eyes, and I kind of guide their rackets down into the leg position. So they have their eyes closed here, and then I take the racket from there and make them go down there and like feel it there. And then they open the eyes, and I just explain to them, like what the pros are if you're a little bit more flexible and you don't squeeze the racket too much. You can just put more rounds per minute on the ball, and and actually get under the ball as well better.
Yeah, really good stuff there. Yeah, similarly, Davor, I was recording myself playing, which is the most very helpful tool, and I was wondering like why is my backhand not as good as my forehand? And then a couple of things that I noticed was one, that just my loading via my hips and shoulders, that unit turn, it wasn't as good
Yeah.
as on my forehand. And then also I realized that I was just like way too tight on my backhand side, rather than my forehand was very loose and flowing.
Mhm.
So really, getting your body much looser helps so much to get the racket drop, get more spin, acceleration, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. And it will feel uncomfortable at the beginning because you never did it, no matter who you teach it to, right? So yeah, they have to trust you enough to understand the process, right? That it takes a little bit to because you never did it right, probably, right? So it takes a little bit to get that feeling.
awesome stuff, Divorce. So, one other thing on the backhand, and another thing that I noticed too that I wasn't doing as well, and I see a lot of players too, is the extension. So, can you talk a little bit about the extension on the backhand, and how important that is and how it should be executed?
Yeah, no, definitely. Like the extension, big part of the back end. So basically, when I teach my players, I let them take the right hand off the racket when they hold the two-handed grip, and then I let them swing forehands. And
Mm.
that's the first step to understand actually that you hit like a left-handed forehand, right? And I always tell them like to feel, even if it's not correct, maybe 100%, but to feel like that the left arm is 90% in charge of the shot and 10% is the right arm for the support.
Mm.
And but what I found though is actually, and that was funny. Some players, they play better when they use their right hand a little bit more on the racket. You always tell them to use the left hand and feel like more it's like a left-handed forehand. But some players actually they feel that right hand a little bit more. So you have to watch too what kind of player you have in front of you. That was happened a couple of times. But the extension,
Yeah.
super important for controlling the shot. After you contact the ball. When you look at Novak on a two-hander, how long he goes through the ball, and
Yeah.
a lot of players, do not follow through so long. And one of the reasons is, and it all starts at the beginning of the shot. When you stand in your ready position or athletic position, and you already have your elbows tucked to your body, a lot of players have the racket already so close to the body
Mm.
that will cause a lot of circular rotation in throughout the shot, because you're going to take the racket back too far around, and then you're going to have more like a circular motion there, like a half circle. But when you have your arms out and in front of you and just rotate your shoulders, you're most likely going to have a better linear pathway of the shot after you contact, and linear and up. And what I like to do is, sometimes they call me like crazy for like what I do on court. Sometimes, I cut the strings out of old racket and have a pool noodle with me, and I let them stand sideways, and I let them. So I'm holding that pool noodle, and they don't have strings in there, so they hit it and extend fully through, and then I pull the noodle out at the right timing. It takes a little practice, and then they follow over their shoulders, right? So, you can do certain things, or like what I like, as I said, I like to work with my hands. So on the forehand side or backhand side, you hold your hands on the strings of the player at contact, and you let them push against your hand, and you slowly take the power, like you give in a little bit, and you pull with your hands. You can pull their racket out longer as well, and then you let it go, and then there are a lot of things you can do with the players as well for the extension. But the key is just you want to have so you need both. You need the follow through, and you need everything you do that creates rotational forces.
Fantastic. Appreciate that, Davor. And yeah, I just want to talk also about volleys. We were talking earlier, maybe it was before we started recording, but about your great presentation on Tennis Gone 4 about low volleys. But I saw another really cool video where you had chairs on the court, and you're promoting or showing us how to prevent like that racket head drop that so many players they do. As soon as they make contact with the volley, with the ball, their racket just drops to the ground. Pretty much their wrist is broken. So I wonder if you could kind of talk about, why it's important that we generally have the racket head, we keep it up. And then also, is that always the case that we want to have that racket head above? Are there any exceptions as well?
Yeah, so for in my humble opinion, when you volley, the racket head should always be above your wrist, and that's the reason you want to lock your wrist when you want to have a not lock, but you want to have a firm wrist, and then you want to make sure that when you volley that there's nothing loose when you volley. So when your racket head is up, you can lock your wrist pretty good. And what I like to teach in forehand and backhand is when they're in the ready position, I like the terms lay your wrist back actually, and while they're keeping the hands up, lay your wrist back, and then like hit on the ball on both sides. So I always use the term lay your wrist back, but definitely I wanna see the racket head always above the wrist, and that's just how you get the most control and the most out of the volleys.
Yeah, I found that as well. Just having that racket head above the wrist, and so I do see a lot of players. It seems like they struggle more on the backhand side. Like, what are some issues or causes as to why that may be the case? Maybe you see that as well.
Yeah, so one of the things, like when you look at female and male recreational players, and you look at doubles when they are when let's say, a lot of when you look at ladies doubles, I teach a lot of ladies when they are on the deuce side and they get a volley in the middle, right? So a lot of problems occur if the wrist is weak. What I want to say with that is if your wrist is in this position, and a lot of players like here, and they try to hit a volley, you can do the test. You probably know that, obviously, when you put the racket in this position, you push against you stronger than if you push here. And the same thing with the ladies when they get a volley and they don't have the right grip. And with the continental, you get this, right? So, and then you lock your wrist, and you should play out of the firm position there, the volley. And a lot of players just, even with the two-hander, they're holding the racket like this during the volley, and you can't get anything on there. And that's a delicate topic, like looking at recreational player and pro players, that backhand volley, do you teach it two-handed or one-handed, right? So that's a big question everywhere online I see too. And for me, it's strongly, I believe that if the lady can handle it, then I'll teach her one-hander. I don't care what people say. Like if a 35-year-old lady comes to me and she's fit, I don't want to teach her two-hander. That's my personal opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm capable of teaching it pretty good, that she will be able to hit a really good one-handed volley, and that's going to help her with the transition shots as well when she comes in. So, too many times I believe we it's too quick that people teach a two-hander when a lady comes in, but they actually have really good volleys if they're, and you have to see, some ladies just want to do clinics and they don't want more. Like I talk about ladies
Right.
because you need a lot of forearm strength. I'm just talking specifically on the
Sure.
backhand volley. But if you see it like that, the lady wants it, and I teach them the one-handed volley, and I think out of like 50 ladies or 70 ladies or whatever, I think 95%. I think I did a good job with that, and they're happy, and I never heard a complaint about it. So I guess it worked,
Yeah, I'm not surprised about that. And in addition to the transition game being helped, I mean, I imagine like another advantage of the one-hander is you have the better reach. I mean, is there
Yeah.
any other reasons too? I mean, those two are good enough, I think.
No, I agree with you 100%. Yes, the reach definitely. Every inch we can cover more with reach. It's massive. And especially like in doubles. But let me think. What else? The reach. If you have a one-hander, I think yeah. I guess that's like one of the main reasons. It's the reach, and I think too, the transition ball, the reach. And then when they get higher volleys as well,
Yeah.
When you're on the do side, I think if you have a really good one-hander, like you have better reach and you can maneuver the racket a little bit better than if you have the left hand on the racket. I guess that's another part of it too, And if you have two ladies playing and one is left-handed, one is right-handed, make sure the left-handed lady plays on the do side.
Yeah, exactly.
So all the volleys in the middle are like forehand volleys.
Yeah. Sorry, Davor. 1 sec. I think my camera might have turned off real
All
quick.
good?
We'll get it back on soon.
No problem, Mehrban.
Thank you. There we go.
Yeah, there you are.
Sweet. Thanks. All right. It's fun. Technical stuff is fun. Let's see.
Yeah, I agree. I love tech. I believe firmly you can't build a house, and try to put the roof on first. You need the foundation first. And then that's my teaching philosophy. Like I tell everybody when they come to me first, I might talk a lot at the beginning and I might bore you at the beginning, but on the long run, you will thank me for that, And as I said, so far, that was okay philosophy for me. I think I didn't get too many complaints about that.
Yeah, I mean it's a great point. It's kind of like a double-edged sword. Obviously there's players who they want to execute strategies, but a lot of times we need the technique, proper technique to be able to execute those strategies. But then obviously if you're able to execute the strategy without the technique and you don't want to advance the technique or you just want to cap your level, then I guess it's fine if you don't improve. But I mean, I found it very satisfying when I, have this technical issue and then I, watch Davor's video or I watch, whoever else's Rick Macy's, serve video, and then I improve it and it feels amazing. And then I can do more with my game. So
no, totally. That's so important. And I think, once students feel that and realize it and do it the first time, you have a different relation to them too, because they feel like, wow, okay, what he taught me, it's good stuff and it's really helping, instead of me just doing clinics and hitting everybody's in the service box and they hit volleys for an hour, So sometimes it's good to mix it up. I think always, as I said, I'm a believer, happy medium is always great between clinics and playing a lot of points and still working though on your shots, because I see now, teaching over 20 years, a lot of players play too much and forget about the craft, and they get stuck at a certain level because they never worked on the craft enough.
Yeah, no, 100%. Just curious before we, I guess transition to another section is, are there any other particular drills or any other, yeah, mainly drills that you think are really good that just like fundamentally wise with technique or anything else that you want to let us know about?
Any drills? I like, since I'm good friends with Craig O'Shaughnessy,
Hmm.
and he talks so much about what is right. Obviously, the forehand, right, and how important the forehand is. And when Novak has the best backhand in the world, he still told him he has to hit more forehand. So I like those drills, serve plus one, where you move a little bit. You're on the ad side, you kick serve out, you move a little bit to the left. So if it gets a forehand on the run, you get it easy. And other than that, you hit the ball in the middle and you dominate with your forehand. Two cross-court forehands, one down the line, the basics, change direction, being able to change the direction good on both sides, or three cross, one down the line, four cross, one down the line. You can do it however you want it, but those things are important. And yeah, and singles especially, when you have beginner players, teach them simple patterns, keep the ball cross court. If you get a good opportunity, open down the line, but then next ball most probably lands on your back inside and you run over there. Like little things, how to open the court. Yeah, I guess the basic thing that everybody is kind of teaching. But I like dominant forehand is for me in the sessions important, even for recreational players, because that's a stronger shot and
Hmm.
you can put more damage into the game if you have a really good forehand.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I'm forgetting the exact statistic, but as you mentioned, pretty much Craig was just his all the data that he's analyzed is this.
Yeah,
You're winning many more points on the forehand, so you should just be hitting more of them. So, yeah,
exactly.
yeah, great stuff
Yeah.
there,
Well,
Davor.
we could talk hours. I love that stuff.
Yeah,
C to C, C to
yeah,
D. Man, I can talk about that day and night. So yeah, I can't. To my wife, probably not. She's gonna probably say, "Devor, you have to leave the house if you want to talk to me about that." But no, but with Craig, it's fun. It's always great conversations I have with him. Great guy, by the way.
for sure. And I guess since you brought it up, I mean, what's like a basic pattern like between like seed A or whatever that you like, and then maybe whatever else you need to explain for the background for people to understand it. Feel free.
Yeah, no, just like patterns, as I said earlier, like when you see C is a little bit to the left on if you're righty, it's a little bit to the left of the center hash mark.
Mm-hmm.
And there are studies with the Hawkeye where they took the body temperature of the players and they looked at it. They compared like women and men, for example, too. Women stand more; they don't stand so much in C. They're actually more a little bit more to the other side, and the
Mm-hmm.
men are like mainly on C, and then people started to think, why is that? What do they do there? And you just have different angles when you hit inside out forehands. You can open the court differently, and then you can go inside in. And the best players in the world, they can disguise the inside in so well. It looks like you prepare yourself. You look like you hit an inside out ball, and then you just snap the hip a little bit more around, and you throw your body a little bit more into the inside in shot. So that's a very important pattern. I like to go two cross court, two inside outs, one inside in a
Mm-hmm.
drill form, or like you rally with someone and you rally like two times, and the third one goes down the line inside in. They play the point out, and then you can add. If you feed a lot, you can go two inside out, one inside in, and then the next ball is a forehand on the run, and you can do it as well, obviously in playing form as well. So I think that's a very very important pattern. And then for the serve, when you look at Federer, I actually watched over the last year, rewatched probably 50, 60 matches of his from the past.
Yeah.
And, if it's 30 all or deuce, he likes to hit the slice serve out wide, takes a little bit pace off. So he gets his opponent a little bit more out of the
Mm-hmm.
court actually, and moves a little bit over to the backhand side. So to anticipate hopefully a forehand on the next shot and go to the open court. So all those, there are many patterns you can play, and that's actually a great topic. When you look at the statistics, crack statistic that the last 2 decades, the number one in the world won 55% of the points and lost 45. I use that to teach my kids to not get mad. Tennis is a game of mistakes. 70% of the points end because of a mistake, right?
Yeah.
So when you teach your kids, you should make mistakes. But what's interesting about that, let's say Novak plays against someone and they played 100 points, he won 55, the opponent won 45. So you cruise like 6-3, 6-3 kind of, it's a statistic. And but what the best players do well, and that's where what separates the good from the great is at those how you call it in English, crunch time moments.
Crunch time, yep.
The important moments like 40-30, 30-40 dues. How do you play points? And that is so important as a coach. If you have a good junior player, for example, teach them until they throw up those patterns. If it's 40-30, you have like a set point. Teach them patterns they feel comfortable with. And every person is different. So I'm 6'4" almost. My kick serve wide was pretty decent. So I knew, doesn't matter who I play, it's 40-30, I kick serve it out. And then either I surprise and run to the net. That was always my to-go. I did that always once in the match, an important point. And I guess I won maybe 70% out of those. And then, what I love to do is the slice into the body. Aim a little bit more to the right, and it drifts into the body. You get a short ball back, so you prepare yourself for that, most likely, and you can start to dominate the point, And so that's the important stat, that you are really good and have patterns and routines in important moments, and that will make you such a better tennis player if you practice those moments.
100%. Yeah. And again, refer back to my last episode with Joel, he said, with respect to serving, but I'm sure other things too, to have at least one serve that you can hit that like lights out all the time. And so for you, that was the kick serve out wide, which is obviously a huge serve, and very painful for players, especially on clay, I imagine, with a two-hander or one-hander really. But yeah, and also, on that topic, as I mentioned in the intro earlier, is that you played, Futures Tour. You played like highest league, I think, in Germany. So been a great player as well. So I mean, it's pretty cool.
Pretty decent, but I have to say always when I see the young kids, so. I played against guys that are 600-700 ATP in the German league tennis. I played.
Yeah.
So they're good players, obviously. And I tried to become a pro when I was 20. But the biggest difference where I wasn't good is, if you don't like running and working hard, then you shouldn't play, obviously, on that level. And I did it, obviously, but I wasn't. If I would have had that spirit that Rafa has and fight for every ball, I would have been better than I was. But the tennis is, as I said, it's one of the toughest sports, and you have to be like a pit bull on the court. I always say that to my students. You can't. Every point counts, and when I was young, I made mistakes. I shanked balls in matches, and I wish we all are just human beings, right? So now if I never do it, or I would never do it again, but you have the life experience, and some, it's an important message to the kids, that you need to make sure that you fight for every single ball when you come on. That was the biggest difference. I played, was it 2000 in Porridge? That was in Croatia, and there was a satellite series of 4 tournaments, and that was the first clay court tournament in Europe outside, and the pre-qualifying was 128 players. The qualifying was 128. So you have like over 10 matches to qualify, right? So it's unbelievable. And I played a guy from Greece, and I thought I'm in shape, but that guy didn't even sweat 95 Fahrenheit, and I hit every ball good, and I wasn't a bad player. I lost 2-2, and that guy shakes my hand. He's like, "Yeah, good match." I was like, "Yeah, I thought it was one of my best matches this year," and he just humiliated me on the court. But what I want to say with that is that the physical part is so important. That guy was so fit, and I thought I'm fit, but I wasn't, So there's always someone better out there.
It is. Yeah, I mean it's you think you're great and there's someone there
Yeah,
that's working harder than you or wants it more than you, and it's for
yeah,
same with all of us. Like I wish I worked a lot harder too when I was younger and everything. But it's a good thing, we now we've learned that and we can impart it to the younger generation. Hopefully at least some of them will take it to heart. So
yeah.
yeah, I
Hopefully.
appreciate that transparency. Yeah, it's tough out there, but we got to just keep working if we want to make great things happen for ourselves. And speaking of life lessons, Devor, I was wondering, just a little bit on the coaching side.
Yeah.
What's maybe one like philosophy about tennis that maybe you initially had, like when you started coaching, that as time went on, then you actually maybe changed your outlook on that particular, concept?
So as older I got, so actually, believe it or not, when I was younger, I was firmer and sterner on the court.
Mm.
So most of the people are, when they start, softer, I guess. But I was always, my dad was a Olympic, not world, he played a world championship in handball, European handball. Long story, it's
Wow.
like 12,000 people watch it. It's really big in Europe. And so he was stern with me. And when I started coaching, I didn't like to compromise. And I think I was too stern. Problem is, I might have been to turn too soft as a coach. I have to still working on finding the happy medium. But one thing what I learned over the years of coaching is empathy, and that to at the beginning I took it too serious. The first 10 years of teaching, but we teach 99% juniors, for example, kids that become high school players, that some of them college players, but most, maybe 1 out of 1,000 makes it pro, right? But so it took me a long time to understand that. But now my biggest achievements as a coach I see when I help the student to become a human being that contributes in a good manner to society, with good manners, with good values, and that is key to me. And I want to always know everything about my students. I know every single kid that I teach. I try to find out, because that's another thing I learned. Some parents are like alcoholics or abusive or whatever, right? So then you see kids coming to lessons and you scream at them because they don't do what you do, right? What you want. But in the end of the day, they have a hard time at home.
Yeah.
And if you don't ask, you will not know that, right? I'll just bring that up that example, although a lot of people don't talk about it because it's important to me. So I found out as more you show the kid that you care, you can change their lives. And that's why I like to be a high performance coach for junior players,
Hmm.
especially because I feel like I can change their perspective a little bit, maybe in a good way,
Yeah.
and help them to guide them to where they want to be, to play a decent part in the society and not be like I don't know, bad people or something.
Yeah.
I like, my values are clear. You respect other people. You work hard. You can always talk about things to me. As a coach, I will always have a year. I will always help when I can. And I think that is the most satisfying part of my job. That I know that I help those kids with whatever they have.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great reminder, Devor, that for the coaches out there, that you're really in a position to make such a big impact on
Yeah.
the future generation and even your older students too. But
Yeah.
yeah, and
True.
the only way to really do that properly is to put in the time to actually get to know them and to
Yeah.
empathize when things are going on, and same thing too, just generally as well. Like if somebody acts one way towards you, like you have to think like, oh, maybe they're under a lot of pressure, maybe they lost their job or
Yeah.
family issues. So just generally that's very important. But yeah, I
One hundred
really,
percent.
yeah, so I really appreciate that point that you made there. A couple I guess I'd say closing questions, but I'm curious, you're obviously a very learned man, and so curious about maybe 3 books that you would gift to a friend to help them improve their tennis game.
All right. Winning ugly? No, I'm just kidding. No,
Everyone says
everybody.
that.
No.
No, it's fine. It's a good book.
Okay, so I would have to look it up who the author is. It's about habits. It's a yellow book. I have it, and it talks about habits. So that I can what was it called? Changing Habits. I think it's a yellow book.
Is it
and
a
it's great.
tennis book?
It talks about.
General? Sorry, Davor. Is it a general habits book or like a tennis specific? It doesn't matter.
No, that's in general because it can relate to tennis too. It talks about how when we want to change something that it takes a little bit, like and that you can create, in the brain like blueprints to the change you want, and visualization plays a big role. Very interesting book. But tennis wise,
it could be general too. It's fine.
Man, I just look. I read all the what I liked. I'm a very I don't interesting lovers and all those guys in there, so they're great. Like how I don't even know how they're all called. I read like all the USTA books, all the Mark Kovacs books about the muscles and anatomy. I like Mark Kovacs. I read a lot about biomechanics. The inner game of tennis, obviously, all those things. And then I like to read biographies from players like Nadal. I read the Agassi. All those are great too. But tennis education-wise, I watched personally over the last couple of years YouTube a lot.
Yeah.
Like all the you can go on USPTA Southern and they have like 20 conferences in there and all the presentations. I like the ITF information. I don't like books so much. What I like to go on the ITF page because I think they have great info there. I go and read all their things. The ITF provides great. On YouTube, you can look at all the conferences, and I think there's so many coaches that have interesting presentations. And then all the Instagram lives as well. When you look, I watched like Emilio Sanchez and Craig O'Shaughnessy talking about Nadal's final. Yes, yeah. So exactly. So those things for me, like at the moment, bring me more value because I think I read every tennis book that's out there. And there's and in German and in Spanish, and there are really good books out there. But in particular, there's just too many out there, and I couldn't name you a couple. But that habit book, I have to send you that changed me a little bit. I want to send you the book cover so you can read that one. That's a good one.
Sweet. Yeah. Definitely send me that, and then I'll link all the books that you mentioned in the show notes, or as many as I can. So yeah, I appreciate that. And here's a kind of a fun question for people, and I know you'll probably give a really good answer. But if you were to be able to put up a huge billboard in the most trafficked areas where you live in Louisiana, so they would be seen by like thousands of people every day. What would you say on that, or what would you write on that billboard? And it can be about really anything.
And I like that. I like that question. I would say on that billboard, we only live once. Don't waste any minute of your life on unnecessarily. Don't get mad when someone honks on you on a car if you're running late somewhere. There's so many people that have it really bad on this planet. So enjoy that you're healthy if you're healthy, and if not, then like just enjoy that. For me personally, since my son was born, it's a long time ago now, but like my perspective just changed. Before I said always what I was looking what I don't have. And when you start to look what you have, you live a richer life. And I had so many people who got sick in my family. And that's why I tell people always, when you live your life, don't ask always for more, because if you look at the sick person, they only have one wish, right? They want to get healthy. And if you're healthy, they have already the most important thing in life, right? So appreciate and embrace what you have, and don't look at the negative things. Try to find positive things and enjoy every moment you have on this planet. It can go fast.
That's right.
I know
I
it
mean,
sounds maybe a little bit, but negative, but it's in a certain way, but it's true. Life goes too fast. It just goes too fast.
yeah, it really does. Yeah, I mean, having that attitude of gratitude, as I think maybe Tony Robinson said. But yeah, I mean, whenever I do that, whenever I'm thankful, like even if I'm not playing well, but I'm just saying, wow, I'm still
Yeah,
very grateful I can play tennis. That I'm not in
yeah,
like a country where I can't do that, or that I'm able to
yeah,
like financially or whatever. The day is much better, and yeah, I mean, we're very lucky, and I try to
yeah.
be grateful every day. So that's really good. Thank you for that, Devor. Just generally, I mean, what's next for Tennis House for you? Like,
Mm.
what are the future plans?
So growing on Instagram,
Yeah.
and I developed an app a couple of years ago, and I still have the code for the app, obviously, and I just didn't have the financial resources anymore to maintain it. So I have that. So hope maybe in the future I'll meet someone who's interested in that. But the near future, growing it on Instagram. I want to get to 100 months, and it's very powerful. I tell people always, we do it for, I think, for a good reason. I want to help others to become better. It's free, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't charge anything for it. It's gonna stay free. I just want to make sure it's very powerful. I always think about it. You open the door, and then 54,000 people stand in front of you,
Yeah.
and they listen to what you say.
Yeah.
When I remind myself, sometimes you're like, oh, it's scary, right? But it's a good thing. So I want to grow it there. Um, I like doing just a little bit on the side. I love the clothing because when I copyrighted and trademarked the logo 6 years ago, that was a good move because we got a good feedback on the logo. So maybe something with clothes. But I'm gonna have two big announcements at the beginning of next year. I'm gonna
Nice.
go into two partnerships that are gonna be really cool. So very fun. So it's gonna be a good one. So 1st of January 2021, everybody will know what it is. So it's something really good coming up.
Exciting. That's awesome, man. I'm really,
Yeah,
really happy for you.
yeah.
That's great. It's sounds really cool. And yeah, I mean, I can't encourage people enough, like that they need to go to at least your Instagram page and check it out. I mean, just such great content on there that everybody will benefit from 100%. So, can you let us know, obviously your handle or your name on Instagram and any other places where people can go
Yeah,
to follow you?
yeah. How it's like tennis, and then how you call it in English? The underline, is it
Uh,
underline?
Underscore or something like that?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
tennis underscore house, and then the house is HAUS.
Mm-hmm.
And the same when you go to Facebook and look at the groups, it's like tennis and then HAUS, and same for the tennis house page. And yeah, that's like with the other platforms as well, like TikTok, it's the same tennis house. And yeah, TikTok is funny though. Man, I love
You
TikTok.
dancing on there?
There are guys that are really really funny on there, and I just love to watch it. Like guys, I have a couple of favorites. It's not tennis related. I just love to watch the videos. So I think it's a cool platform as well. And yeah, so the main one is tennis, and then the underline there HAUS on Instagram, on YouTube as well. I will start posting next year a little bit more YouTube content, which will be a lot of followers ask me if I can do longer videos on certain topics. So at the beginning of next year, I will take a week or something and shoot like 100 videos or something and
Sweet.
do like 5 to 10 minute videos on certain topics. And what's important, what I just wanted to say is, there's John Myers is out there, a great friend of mine, very good, like Ryan, we're
Very
good
good.
friends.
Hmm.
We have that's the cool thing. We can talk about the same thing, but we have a different approach.
Right.
Like the party hat, for example. He teaches the party hat, right? Brian Dabble teaches to roll the ball. One of the tools we have, right? I like to relax the fingers and the index and the thumb and go. So we talk about the same topic, but we have different approaches, and that's what's cool about it.
Hmm.
That we exchange info, and we are all in contact with each other, and What's his name, Gaston from Brazil.
Yeah.
There's so many good guys out there you can learn from. Obviously, Brian Dabble. There are hundreds of good coaches out there. So it's you're fantastic. I love what you do.
Thank
And
you.
and then one more thing for next year, Instagram lives. Since Tennis House got a little bit bigger and I did those lives before with Philippussis and Pierce, they're going to be really good names, like top 20 players, like 4 or 5 top 20 players, female and male, that's going to come, and coaches too. I'm excited about it. So yeah, that's another good thing.
You gotta follow Davor in Tennis House, man. I mean, how can you miss like top 20 player interviews? That would be a mistake. So yeah, totally. You guys gotta follow Tennis House for sure. Is there anything else before I ask you my classic last question? Anything else that you want to share with us or talk about that maybe I haven't asked you about?
I just want to say that you and I, we do like similar things. We want to help and educate, and I just think social media is a good way to communicate and a good way to educate if it's used right. If it's not used right, everything you do can be maybe counterproductive. But what I wanted just to thank every coach that gave me permission to share their stuff, every coach that sends me daily hundreds of videos. All those guys built the house. That's why it came the name. I wanted the house where you have everything in there. You can still, obviously, you like Joel Myers. He's the first one who's going to post it. You're going to see it there. But I like to have it too in the house because, if some people like to see different things as well, then they're going to find it. So that's what I like about it, And I just want to thank all the coaches and all the followers. It's been a great ride. Everybody is friendly, and it's really cool. So it's been a nice fun 5 years now. 5 years.
Flies by. Yeah, I
Man,
know.
5 years
Yeah, no,
goes fast.
yeah, I mean, I echo that. And it's really cool. I found that, for the most part, like 90-95% of the time, like, all the coaches and everybody, it's not like we're, sword fighting people and trying to do our own thing. Like we are promoting everybody else, and everybody is benefiting. I mean, the students are benefiting by getting exposure to different teaching. So it's really, really wonderful.
Agree with you.
Yeah.
You'll always have people who don't like you, but I mean, that's just how it is, right? You can, you run a tournament, you have 2 people that complain. You run an event, you have 1-2 people who complain. You do a drill, one person. People are always going to be, and it's good. It should be that way, right? And sometimes, it's constructive criticism, which is good, and and sometimes maybe not. But I was, so far I've had really good experiences. What about you? Anything you want to let out as a last thoughts?
Oh, wow. Last thought. No, I mean, I before I ask you my question, I just want to, I just want everybody to just try to improve themselves, 1% every single day. And, there's a lot of information out there, obviously, but, I would just say to try to like pick the 1 or 2 areas at the moment that you are having trouble with, and then to find information about that particular area. Like, let's say if you're having trouble on the serve, you go to Davor's account and you look and you see, what advice does he have on there? And then you make a plan of action like Davor does, for his, whether it's teaching or posting. And then you lay it out, and then you book it on your calendar. Okay, I got 3 times a week for 1 hour. I'm going to work on my serve, and you do that. And then once it becomes second nature, then you move on to the next thing. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of random, but I think that's an important concept that maybe will help
have a
you.
plan. Yeah,
100%. Just goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning. So so Davor, last question for you. I mean, you've given us a lot of great tips, but what is one key tip that you can give us to help our audience improve their tennis games?
One key tip to improve the games.
Yes, out of the millions.
Probably heard it a lot of times, but The biggest advice is, because it can happen in any match when you crumble and you lose it, right? We always have to go back to the basics,
Yes.
and it's coming back to life lessons. Keep it 10. Anything that's too fancy on your strokes, let's for example talk about the volley. You have a too big of a backswing on a volley and you want to kill everyone, most likely going to be late on the ball, you overhit it, you hit it out. Keep it, you always think that there's another person. Let's take this volley example. So many players try to think they kill volleys. You don't win a volley. You don't hit a volley winner out of from the service line area, right? So you have to gradually prepare, and it's with all the shots. And then you have a human being on the other side. You don't have to do something super spectacular. You just have to make sure you keep it simple and compact, and you're gonna have a good time on the court. That's my advice. Relax, keep it simple. If you crumble on the court, get back to the basics. Nothing fancy on the court. Tennis, just a game of consistency, and one person is going to make an error. And they're two human beings playing. Two human beings. People always think they play Federer over there, but the other person makes mistakes too.
Yeah, 100%. I love that. Yeah, I mean, it's funny because my college tennis coach, over here in the States, or sorry, in Maryland, whenever people had issues or they were having mental breakdowns or whatever, he'd say, just go back to the basics, back to the basics. So,
Yeah.
yeah, love it. So, yeah, I mean,
That coach was smart.
yeah, I know. Smart like you. So, um,
Yeah.
so, I mean, Davor, thanks again. I just want to acknowledge you for all the great things you're doing for the tennis community. And, like I said, it's not, you've got a family, you're a full-time job, and then you're posting 8 times in 24 hours, like on Instagram. It's like, this guy is definitely passionate about tennis, and, it's all positive, instruction to help everybody improve, or like really cool, tennis things, other clips. So, keep up the great work, and thanks a lot for coming on to the Tennis Files podcast. And yeah, hopefully we'll talk again very soon. And excited for you for what's in store for 2021 and beyond for you. So thanks again.
Thank you, Mehrban. Same here. Thank you for having me. And yeah, felt like got to know you a little bit better as well. And that was a fun talk. You do an outstanding job. It's not, I did a lot of lives. It's not easy to keep it fun, productive, and having good info on there. So I think you do an outstanding job with that. And same for you. Keep the passion up you have, and I know we're gonna see each other hopefully next year. That COVID thing is gonna be done, and then we can see each other maybe at some tournaments or anywhere at a conference or something.
Yeah, that can't wait for that. Knock on wood. I hope that's soon. And thanks a lot, Davor. Appreciate it again. Then thanks everybody for listening. So yeah, have a great one, and we'll definitely talk again soon. All right. I really hope you enjoyed my interview with Coach Davor Dekaris. And Davor, thanks a lot for coming on to the show. It was really fun to do that interview with you. And I definitely learned a lot. And I'm going to go back through it. I know we talked on the show about, just producing so much content that a lot of times I'm not able to go back over it. While I'm interviewing, I do learn a lot, but sometimes I'm trying to figure out, what the next question should be at the same time. So I hope that not hope, but I will be going back through this for sure. A lot of great stuff on it. So I really hope you enjoyed this interview. And if you enjoyed it, I'd really appreciate it if you would leave a review for the Tennis Files podcast, and you can leave one on Apple Podcasts. That's probably, to be frank, the most helpful one overall. But I think, anywhere you can would be great and would be of service to me to figure out what I'm doing well, hopefully something, and what I can improve upon. Always just want to do my best to serve you through the content here. And so let me know what you want to hear and topics and so forth. And yeah, so I'd also just want to leave you with a quote, as I often love to do at the end of the show. And this one is by the Dalai Lama. And the Dalai Lama said, "If you lose, don't lose the lesson." Very powerful quote there, just 7 words, but that's something when we're playing tennis and we lose, we don't have a good day. It's very important to, as I mentioned in the show, to to reflect, and also Davor did to be honest with yourself and say, you know what, I didn't play well. I didn't try hard today. I didn't implement the proper strategy and so forth. And then just train that and improve and do better. Just do better. All right. With that, I am going to end this episode after a few more words, which is just basically me talking right now. Those are the words, but I want to wish you all the best and to stay safe. And, it's just really a blast to do this interview, and I'm looking forward to doing many more for you along with solo episodes as well. I find that that's a fun mix, and I think you all enjoy it. So, all right, all the best to you all. Have a fantastic day, week, month, and year, and be safe. And I will see you on the next episode of the Tennis Files podcast. This is Mehrban signing out.